Yeah, merci Alain, merci, bonjour à tous et surtout merci Lorraine pour ces highlights. Je ferai la présentation en français pour faire un mix des deux. Je voudrais rebondir rapidement en fait sur la présentation de Lorraine et effectivement je vais euh, me pencher plus sur les questions fiscales. Deux points que je souhaite souligner et sur lesquels en fait l'IRS ne s'est pas prononcé, ne se prononcera pas avant un bout de temps à mon avis. Le premier en fait c'est faites attention avec la fermeture des frontières ou la difficulté de voyager, vous pourriez devenir des résidents fiscaux américains ou le contraire, et donc ça peut avoir des conséquences importantes en fait sur votre système de taxation au préalable. En fait, je vous rappelle que pour déterminer le calcul de vos impôts, on regarde tout d'abord où vous êtes un résident fiscal. Et quand vous êtes un résident fiscal des États-Unis, sur la règle principale en fait du nombre de jours qui est calculé sur le nombre de jours de l'année en cours, de l'année de considération des taxes, et celle des 2 années précédentes sur un calcul un peu assez facile à faire. Vous seriez imposable sur vos revenus du monde entier. Donc, faites attention à ça et réfléchissez-y pour vous organiser au mieux. Le deuxième point, et Lorraine mentionnait cela dans sa présentation, c'est sur l'histoire des home office en fait. Effectivement, beaucoup d'entreprises ont renvoyé en fait leurs salariés chez eux et qui se sont organisés avec un bureau à la maison. Ici sur Los Angeles, en fait, où la Californie du Sud, nous ne sommes pas trop impactés, mais sur les États pour lesquels en fait un salarié en fait habiterait dans un État et travaillerait dans une entreprise qui serait dans un autre État, cela pourrait poser des problèmes pour cette entreprise qui de facto en fait aurait une déclaration supplémentaire à faire dans l'état de résidence de son salarié où il a organisé son home office. Je ne pense pas que ça impacte beaucoup de nos auditeurs aujourd'hui. Alors, je vais revenir en fait sur ma présentation. Je vais faire un peu d'histoire et d'histoire récente et donner des précisions sur deux actes de loi qui sont passés récemment. Euh, le premier, en fait, c'est le Family First Response Act qui a été voté en fait le 20 mars dernier et qui oblige à partir après le 1er avril, donc commencement du 2 avril, les entreprises à payer des congés maladie ou payer des obligations familiales, payer des émoluments en fait quand les salariés sont obligés de rester à la maison pour obligations familiales. En clair, garder les enfants qui ne sont plus à l'école car les écoles sont fermées. C'est en
Frank, can I interrupt just a second? We have many English speaking person attending the call. And so I was wondering if you could switch to English exceptionally today and
okay.
also start your video again. Thanks.
Yeah, okay. I'll try. I'll try to do it in English. Okay. So I was mentioning two acts recently passed in March. The first one was the Family First Response Act, signed on the 20th of March. This one is revisiting an old act from 1993, where some of the companies had to propose sick leave and family leave to their employees. Now, from the FFRA, this Family First Response Act signed in March, last March 20th, there's an obligation for the companies to pay sick leave and family leave. So if you are in this case, please go and ask your company and see what they are proposing to you. That's the first point I would like to highlight. If there is any question about that, please get back to me and I will be more than happy to help you to figure out if you are entitled to those kind of leave. The second act passed and signed on the 27th of March is one of the most important, which is called the CARE Act. And this CARE Act released almost $2.3 trillion, some 600 billions around for small businesses, 610 billions for household. There's some for large businesses, more than 500 employees. There's some billions of dollars, around 200 billions of dollars for health providers, etc. And some of them also for state and municipalities. We can organize the CARE Act into two parts. There are some provisions for businesses, and there are other provisions for individual. So I'll start with the provisions for businesses. It started quite early with something that we called the Economic Injury Disaster Loan, the EIDL. It's organized by the Small Business Administration. So for those who have some businesses, there was the possibility to obtain a grant under the EIDL. First of all, $10 billion were released, and those $10 billion have gone very quickly and have been distributed very quickly. Since then, other funds have been released, but I don't know now where we are at. So what I can say about the EIDL is that the administration changed the way to distribute those funds. First of all, there was an original promise up to $10,000. Now it has been modified in two significant ways. The first one is that there's a confusion as to whether it's a loan or a grant. What's sure is that it's now referred as an advance on the to the borrower. That's one thing. The second thing is that the funds for any companies have been significantly reduced from 10,000 to 1,000 per employee in the company. So so far, I mean, I've been assisting lots of small businesses, and unfortunately, I haven't seen anybody getting something. So that's one thing. I'll jump then on to the next provision, one of the most important, and which is called the Paycheck Protection Program, the PPP. It's accessible to E2 visa. So there was some also some confusion at the beginning, but now it's more clear and more easy to process those kind of demand, those kind of loan. So it's a loan supervised by the SBA, but it's organized by your bank. So you have to go through your bank to ask for this PPP loan. It's on a basis of first come, first serve. The principle is the following. You have to determine the average payroll. The average payroll for the last 12 months on your company payroll, and this average is multiplied by 2.5, which will give an idea of the loan that you can get from the bank. The average payroll includes lots of things. I mean, obviously the wage, the wages basis, the tips, all payments for vacation, leave, etc., etc. So healthcare plan, retirement benefits, and so on. So that includes all of that. So when you have determined the amount of the loan, it's going to be processed by your bank. When the most important thing is that when you receive this loan, you have to spend the amount in the next eight weeks from receiving the loan. And the way you have to spend it, I'm saying spending it because if you follow the provision and you spend it in the way that is described by the provision, the loan will become a grant. Okay, so when you receive this loan, it has to be disbursed into the next eight weeks. 75% has to be spent on payroll, and the 25% remaining should be spent on loyer. I'm losing my English. On rents and utilities and so on. So that's one thing, one important provision. Okay, so I'm passing on another provision of the CARE Act, which is called the Employee Retention Credit. For those companies or small businesses who are still paying their employees during COVID-19, there's a possibility to get a credit up to $10,000 per employee, covering at least 50% of wages to each employees. And so this credit can be reimbursed immediately by the IRS. So it's a very important provision to keep the key employees into your business. That said, there's also, on the top of this employee retention credit, the possibility to postpone or delay the payroll tax payment. So delay, it's not all payroll taxes, but just only the employer part of the payroll taxes. This can be delayed up to December 31st, 2022. So that push it very far. Another important provision is about the net operating loss. The Tax Cut Job Act signed in 2017, December 2017, limited different other provision, such as the NOL, the deductible interest. Today, all those provisions from the TCJA have been erased and renewed, so there's no limitation today on the NOL, the net operating loss. On the top of that, I'm missing all those tax provisions altogether. Just to hopefully that it makes sense to you. There's also the possibility to accelerate some depreciation on qualified business property. Those provision, accelerated depreciation, are mostly addressed to real estate investors. The TCJA also limited the amount of depreciation on some qualified improvement. So the bottom line of all of that, I mean, is that you can first of all create more loss. You will say, why I will create more loss? First of all, it's just not to have to pay any taxes. That's one point. But the CARE Act also enacted the following, is that you have now the possibility to carry back your NOL up to 5 years in the past. Before it was 2 years, two years carry back and 20 years carry forward. Now you have the possibility to carry back up to 5 years in the back. So we are in 2020, it's up to 2016 tax years. What does it mean? It means that those years were for some people very profitable. And for some reason, the tax bracket on personal personal or even companies, they were higher than what has been enacted in the TCJA from December 2017, the first tax law under Trump administration. So you have the possibility now today to carry back those NOL and to get some and to apply those NOLs on profitable years and to get some refund from those years. So why will I create more loss today with accelerating some depreciation? You've got it. So that ends my part on the businesses provision in the CARE Act. I would like now to highlight some of the provision for individuals. You may have heard about the stimulus check. When in 2018 or 2019 you declared an AGI under $75,000 for a single or $150,000 for a married couple, you are entitled to receive a $1,200 or $2,400 stimulus check, and plus $500 for children. I think it's possible. I don't think it's possible now today to obtain those $500 for children under 18 number. It's just only those stimulus check are just for people with regular SSN, social security numbers. Be careful. So to receive those checks, you have to file a tax return. You had to file a tax return in 2018 or 2019. So I suggest that you file your tax return in as soon as possible for 2019 if you were not a filer before. The release of those checks is already on. I know some people who already received them. For non-filers and even filers who didn't provide, so those checks are automatic and will be credited on your bank account only if the IRS knows the information about from your bank account. If not, you have the possibility to go online on the IRS website and to provide those information, banking information. Unfortunately, for filers, I've heard back that there was some difficulty to enter those banking information. So I don't have right now any information about that and to provide any solutions. What's sure is that I understand that if DRS doesn't know your banking information, the stimulus check will be paid with a check. So you will receive a check in your mail. And I understand that those checks will be released starting May 4th. So that covers the stimulus check. The other provision, something about donation to charities. Donation to charities had a tax impact most likely on people who were itemizing their deductions. So to make it simple for people, and most likely since the TCJA Act. So today, most likely for people itemizing the deduction and for people who deduct their mortgage interest, to make it very simple. So it was an under the line deduction. Today, you have the possibility to have to deduct $300 made to charities, not going through the Schedule A itemized deduction. It's an above the line deduction. So please, if you were donating every year with no tax impact because you are not an itemizer, please reconsider your donation, as 300 of those dollars will be deducted above the line from your AGI. Another provision is about kind of important. I mean, this CARE Act is offers the possibility to get some cash, and one of those possibility is about the IRA and 401k, the retirement account. the CARE Act suppressed the 10% penalty for early withdrawal. So if you are looking for cash right now, you have the possibility to withdraw from your retirement account. That said, you have also the possibility to steer from the past provision to get a loan from your IRA, but the loan limit has been increased up to 100K. There's
we are running out of time, but if you can
yeah,
wrap
so
up the most important.
Let me, most important, just to finish for interest, a loan, student loan, there's a suspension of the payment. What else? That's pretty much it. I mean, there's a lot, and there were 850 pages in the CARE Act. There are some consequences that all tax professionals are working on today. So please stay in touch, and if you have any questions, do not hesitate to reach me. I will be more than happy to help you.